Welcome to the Teapot Reads. I'm the Teapot. This is what I am currently reading, and I am so happy to see you today. So last year I started a tradition where I would go through my favorite books that I had read during the course of the year and then purchase and gift them to members of my family. And not only was it a lot of fun to pair up particular books with particular people, but it was a hit. People really enjoyed it, and I wrote like little small cards about like why I picked this book for them, why I loved this book, etc. And I really liked doing it, so it's something that I plan on doing every year moving forward. So I thought it would be kind of cool to share with you the books that I am gifting this year. So I did start the selection process for my favorite books of the year in October, just because we're projecting a book shortage and I wanted to make sure I had the books that I wanted to give. There are still 2 books I haven't picked up yet just because I kind of forgot when I was just grabbing the other ones. So I'm just going to show you my copies. These are not the exact 2 copies though that I'm giving. One of these is a special edition and I'm not gifting that, sorry. But I want to just talk a little bit about each book and yeah, let you know that these are all really good gifting books. They are, I don't think they're like necessarily family friendly, all of them, but they're not going to be uncomfortable if you are looking for a good book to gift someone that you're like, oh, I don't want to maybe gift them something super weird, like something that would make them kind of look at me sideways. Like last year, I was going through my favorite books of last year and I was like, Docile, I loved Docile, but if you know anything about that, it's got very explicit sadomasochistic sex scenes, and I was not going to gift that. That was not going to happen. So like that kind of book, not on here. These are all great books. I loved them all. One of them was a reread this year, but the others are all read for the first time this year, and I think they're all backlist. One of them's new this year. The rest are all backlist. So again, if you're looking for good books to gift that maybe aren't super popular, you're unsure if the person has read it, these probably are good options because they just aren't as popular as other titles out there. So let's just get into it. And these are in just the order I put them in. Yeah, it's not special. First of all, we have The Little Chinese Seamstress by Dai Siji, I think is how you pronounce his name. This is great. It's sort of a modern classic. Very short, very quick, and very beautiful, very poignant. It takes place during China's Cultural Revolution and is actually partially biographical. The author was a young child during when it happened, and in the story, the protagonist and his friend are sent to a country village. So basically, city children were being taken from their families and put in the country to kind of learn what it was to work hard and to know what like the people work and what that kind of life is and to be re-educated. So that happens to our protagonist and his friend. And while they're there, 2 things happen. One, they meet the little seamstress. She is from, her father is a little bit wealthier and they're kind of the higher class of the country folk, but they're still country folk. And they meet her and they both have romantic feelings for her, but particularly the friend. And they find Western texts that have been translated into Chinese. They get their hands on these, and those texts, including Balzac, change their lives. This is a bit of a coming of age story. It is a bit of like a cultural touchstone, a little bit of a historical piece, a little bit memoir. It is very much, it's dark because of what it deals with, but it is done in a light way, so it's not heavy, but it's very much going to make you think. While the protagonists and the narrators are men, the real character that is interesting to follow is the little seamstress. She goes on a very different arc than you might expect from how it starts, and I think that if you're looking to gift someone who likes historical books, but also likes, I don't want to say directly feminist, but likes to see female empowerment tales, I would actually recommend this one because I think that does a great job of it. But yes, that is Balzac and the Little Chinese Seamstress. Then we have This Is How You Lose the Time War. Like I said, this is a special edition. This isn't the edition I'm gifting. but we'll just pull out this one. This is the Illumicrate edition. So this is by Amal El-Motar and Max Gladstone. This is fantastic. It's a little sci-fi novella, and you know how like historical letters will be found from like lesbians or gay people where it's like historians want to erase it and be like, oh, they were just friends. Okay, but like with two time travelers is kind of the vibe of this book. It's written as a series of letters between two time travelers from different time traveling organizations that have opposite goals and plans. They both are trying to create the future that their organization thinks is the most desirable. And so they're enemies and trying to sabotage each other at the same time. And they start as rivals, but they quickly become very much more than that. It is so good. Red and Blue, that are their names. It is so good. I really liked it. It's got good queer representation. I mean, they're lesbians, but I think more than anything, it was the formatting and just watching this relationship through letters that I loved. I thought it was this really cute, old-fashioned way to do it. This book, this novella, is also very quick to read. I think I read it in like 2 or 3 days. And it's a lot of fun. But kind of like Balzac, it's sort of dark in some ways, even though it's written very lightly, because it really does make you think about what a desirable future would actually look like. It's also very clever. If you like sci-fi or you like sci-fi adjacent things, this is probably a good book for you. So if you're looking to gift someone a book who maybe they liked the film Dune but couldn't get into the book, like that was too dense, they're just looking for a little bit of sci-fi, this would be a good one. I would also say if they're a fan of the Murderbot series or the Expanse series by James S. A. Corey, again, another really good recommendation to gift. Then we have Winter Song by S.J. Jones. If you have been following the channel recently, you know I cannot shut up about this book. I recently listened to an audiobook when I couldn't read because of eye injury. I love this book so much. It is YA fantasy, but it's definitely on the older end of YA. I wouldn't say it's so old that it's like bridging into new adult, but it's just older YA. It is basically the film Labyrinth, aged to a YA scale. And if Sarah ended up with the Goblin King, it is so good. It's got some spice, which is great. It's got just great characters. It's very heavily into music. There's a lot to do with composing music and performing music and how music is created. There's also a lot of, I think, German fairy tale aspect to it. So if you're buying for someone who enjoyed Uprooted or Spinning Silver, I think those would be really good comparisons to this book. But this book was so good. The real heart of this book is the relationship between Elisabeth and the Goblin King. It's just great. It's also, another really good one is for someone who liked The Cruel Prince, but wanted maybe it to be aged up a wee bit. Again, great choice. It's got that really chaotic fairy energy going on with it. So yes, if it's someone who would like that. But honestly, if you're buying for someone who is a fan of the movie Labyrinth, I think they will love this book because it has, as much as it is its own original thing, it does have some really cute nods to the Labyrinth film as well, which I really enjoyed. I am actually gifting this for someone who doesn't read a whole bunch, but who does enjoy a good story. So I know it's YA, and I don't typically gift to YA unless someone is already a fan of that genre or has admitted to liking that genre, but I just think that there's something really magical and wonderful about this book, and I just really wanted to share it. So if that helps you figure out who you might want to gift this sort of book to, yeah, I'm gifting it to basically a non-reader, but I think they will enjoy it all the same. Another YA book I am gifting this season is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin E. Craig. This is one that I listened to an audiobook for work, actually. I really liked it. It's sort of fantasy light, but it's horror fantasy light. It isn't so dark and scary that I think you'd be afraid. Her other book, though, is fucking terrifying. This one, not terrifying. Small Favors, very scary. This just sort of has a really great atmosphere, and it's kind of gothic, and you can like smell the salt of the sea as you're reading it. It is so good. This is a horror fantasy retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses. There's a lot more going on than that, but that is an important aspect of it. One of the main plot points is that the sisters keep dying in mysterious and awful ways, and our protagonist Annalie, is trying to uncover what might be happening because she thinks it's not an accident anymore. She thinks there's something going on. And there is a lot of mystery. There are a lot of red herrings that pay off. Like, you think one person's gonna be the bad guy, and then another person, you're like, oh, well, it's not them, it must be this person. And then it's like, no, it's not that person, then it must be this person. Like, holy crap, it's not that person. Oh my god, it was this person all along. Like, it's great. The twists and turns are great. This would be good for someone who likes a good mystery, as well as someone who is not necessarily super into fantasy, but likes the aesthetic of fantasy, of things just not happening in our world. Maybe weirdly enough, but I think that if someone is a fan of Laini Taylor, this would be a good book to gift them. I don't know if I could extrapolate on that, but I think it is a true statement. Again, this is a YA. I don't typically gift YA unless I know someone is comfortable reading that genre, because I know a lot of adults just don't necessarily get a lot out of it. I do think this one has a lot of good elements and doesn't talk down to the reader. It's definitely a little bit older YA. It's probably on like the same level as like Hunger Games, I guess. It's got a lot of crossover potential is what I'm trying to say. So I think this is another YA that you could gift either to a teenager or to an adult, and I think that both would find it enjoyable, probably for similar reasons, not gonna lie. I want to say, if you're looking to gift a book to someone who likes the idea of horror but can't necessarily sit through most horror movies, this is the book to give, because it is perfect for that kind of thing. Because that's me. I can't sit through horror movies, but I could do this book. All right, next up, this was actually a reread this year. I reread it earlier this year, but I read the rest of the series, which I hadn't done before this year, so I counted it on this sort of gift buying list that I was making, and that is Illuminae by J Kristoff. I am gifting this to someone who is a fairly large sci-fi fan, and I don't think they would have read it. Oh, it's by Amy Kaufman and J Kristoff. Oh, why am I trying to erase you, Amy? I'm sorry. Again, it's YA. Again, I think the third book in this trilogy reads the most YA, but this has a ton of crossover potential. Honestly, just let them swear and it would have been an adult book. I'm gifting this to someone who loves science fiction, but I find it unlikely that they've read this book. I'd be very surprised if they had read this book. Illuminae is the first in the Illuminae Files trilogy, I think it is called, and it takes place, it's not the near future, but it's not like super distant. It says 2575, so yeah, like not impossibly distant. And I've just realized that the cover is like damaged. Ooh. Okay. Oops, I might have to go return this and get a nicer copy. A lot is going on, but basically the setup is that there was an illegal mining colony on a planet, and a company has come to basically kill all the people there and put their own illegal organization there. And a couple ships escape, and you are following some of the survivors on those ships, but bad things keep happening. Like, the stakes in this book keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There is a plague type thing, there is a rogue AI, there is just drama. It definitely has some shades of YA. The relationship is kind of important. Like, the romantic relationship is kind of important in a very YA way, but overall, this is one of the best science fiction series I have ever read. It is so much fun. A big bonus is that it is told in a really unconventional way, which, if you've heard about this book, you've probably heard that it does this. It reads like a found footage film, and it is phenomenal. So yeah, I mean, this is good for anyone who's a big fan of sci-fi. Again, lean into Dune. If they liked Dune a lot, they're probably going to like this. Oh, I'm so excited for this one. I'm so excited to gift this one. It's like, I read it and I immediately knew, I was like, this is who I'm gifting it to. I loved this book. I wasn't even intending to read it this year. I just ended up with a copy from a book box, and oh my god, it was just to die for. And that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I need to get on pre-ordering book 2. I think it's called Bloodmarked. I loved this book to death. I think it came out this year. Maybe it came out last year. Ooh. It did. It came out in 2020. Wow, I'm wrong, but close enough. This book is amazing. Again, YA. I didn't realize I had so much YA on here. This one I'm actually getting for someone who's a bit younger, so I didn't really consider whether it was YA or not. I think they would enjoy it. It is a King Arthur retelling, kind of. It is, oh, it's a dark academia, kind of. It is, oh my god, there's witches and witchcraft and, okay, what is it about? It's good. I think on this pile, all these books, this is the one that I would probably give to the most amount of people. I just think the most amount of people would like it, as well as it's a book everyone should read. It's a book everyone should read. So it's urban fantasy. There are some parallels to Shadowhunters, but if you like Shadowhunters, I think you'd appreciate it. And if you hate Shadowhunters, I also think you'd appreciate it, because yeah, I think she does it better. But what is it about? Bree's mother died accidentally in a car accident. And a few months after that happens, Bree ends up going to a college. She's still in high school. I don't 100% understand this. Okay, I think these probably exist, but I don't have a real world example. Basically, it's for high school students to do pre-college, but they get college credit. So Bree's really smart, but that's like the kind of program it is. And that's why it's kind of got like dark academia vibes. And while she's there, she begins to suspect that maybe her mother was killed. Maybe something bigger is going on. And in trying to discover what might have happened, she ends up getting involved with a secret society that dates all the way back to King Arthur. And she ends up under false pretenses joining the society. She also discovers that she's kind of got her own magic going on, and that's really sketchy, so she's investigating that as well, and it's really, really good. It's really, really good. The characters in this are stand out. There are so many different things happening in this book, so many different aspects that I would have, if someone told me that witchcraft and King Arthur would mesh in this way, I would have been like, no, I don't think that would work. But it works so well. It works almost too well. It's like, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. This book is brilliant. I, again, think everyone should read this book. I think it's also a great book if you're looking to gift to someone who is very socially conscious, because it definitely has a Black Lives Matter theme going throughout. It's very important, and Black history, because slavery plays a role in this book. Not actively, it's a past thing. It takes place in modern day, but the effects of slavery, especially on lineage, very important in this book. So yeah, definitely good to give to someone who's socially conscious, especially if they're not really interested in reading nonfiction or find a hard time reading nonfiction, or someone who is just looking to diversify their library. Again, though, even if they're not looking for either of those things, this is so good. Everyone should read it. Then we have Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. I read this one really recently. I really enjoyed it. This is a historical novel set in the period between World War I and World War II. It's got sort of dark academia vibes, but not really. It's mostly following our protagonist Charles and his involvement and relationship to an incredibly wealthy English family. He's English too. I don't know why I specified they were English. This takes place in Britain. He becomes really close with the younger brother when they're at school, and this sort of propels him into being very active in this family's life. It's a really interesting historical novel because it was written at a point where it just kind of seemed like the British aristocracy would fade away to nothing. Definitely changed, especially in the interim of World War I and World War II, but it still exists. And this novel is kind of looking at it with a very nostalgic lens, which I think was really interesting and really good. The family themselves, the family of Brideshead, they are super Catholic, and that is also a really interesting aspect of this novel. I was raised Catholic, so I know a lot of Catholics. A lot of my family is Catholic. I don't know how it's going to go over in that regard when I gift it. I think it'll be okay. But Catholicism, especially in the UK, is not really as big as it is in other countries. I mean, C of E is like Protestantism is kind of like the religion in the UK. This book just looks at Catholics and practicing Catholics, particularly the matriarch of the Brideshead family, in a very sad way. Not to say it treats it sadly or thinks of it as a sad thing, but just like the novel is looking at the British aristocracy in a very nostalgic light, it's looking at Catholicism in a very sad, watery light as well, because it's also kind of dwindled. And also is confronting both these things and asking, are they important? Should we have either of these things? Should either of these things have the power they deserve, especially in the modern world? And yeah, it's really, really good. I feel like I'm not giving it a lot of justice. I don't think I dedicated a vlog to just reading this book, but I've definitely spent a lot of time reading the book over vlogs, so you can definitely check those out. But I am gifting this to someone who likes serious novels and who is interested in history and who I think will appreciate the nostalgia of it. This is also a sort of more modern classic. So if you're looking to gift to someone who has read a lot of classics, chances are they probably haven't read Evelyn and they probably haven't read Brideshead Revisited. Maybe they have. It's not that uncommon of a book, but it's no Pride and Prejudice. And finally, another classic. We have If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino. This book is so weird. This book is so good. I know I said I didn't have like weird books on this list. This is probably the weirdest. You are the narrator. You have just picked up the most recent book by Italo Calvino called If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. And as you're reading, you are noticing something is wrong. You are noticing that the book isn't the book you picked up. So you go to return it. And you were given a different book. And basically you just keep running into issues and you keep trying to find the end of the story, but instead you were treated to vignettes from a bunch of different stories that maybe they connect, maybe they don't. Who's gonna know? And all this time there is a frame story of you and another reader pursuing this knowledge. It is so good. This book was phenomenal. Strongly recommend it outside of gifting. Again, a good book to gift someone who has read a lot of classics, probably hasn't read Italo Calvino. And also a great book to gift someone who just loves books, loves the act of reading. This is one of those books that if you are all about books, you probably will enjoy. It's just really a comfort, really a joy, really a treasure. I cannot say that strongly enough. And yeah, those are the books I'm gifting. That is what I'm gifting this year in books. There might be a couple more that slip through the cracks that I'm like, you know what, I think so-and-so would love this book, but these are the ones that I intentionally am giving. I'm going to write little cards dedicated to each person about why I think this book in particular would be a good fit for them, as well as why I liked the book. And I just think that's a nice little touch to add so that they kind of have that with them. But yes, that's what I'm doing. Feel free to steal this idea and gift your favorite books this year, although I feel like a lot of people already do this. If you're looking for a good gifting idea, like this is definitely a way to do it. But that's all for me today. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sitting and sticking around. I guess you don't have to be sitting, but thank you for sticking around. If you're somewhere cold, I hope you're staying warm. And if you're somewhere warm, I hope you're staying comfortable. And most of all, I hope you're reading a great book. I will see you guys next time. Bye!